In episode 142 for October 12th, 2020, my conversation about the pros and cons of the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma, with frequent guest Kevin Johnson. With the current state of the world, it's a great time to think about how to better protect our digital privacy. Our sponsor Silent Pocket makes it easy with their product line of patented Faraday bags, phone cases, and wallets, which will make your devices untrackable, unhackable, and undetectable. Visit silentpocket.com and use discount code SHAREDSECURITY to receive 15% off your order during checkout.
Hey everyone, it's Scott Wright here for ClickArmor. October is here, and that means it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month again. Whether you're a manager responsible for security, an employee in an organization, or you're just interested in security, I'd like to tell you about ClickArmor's new video blog that I post on YouTube. It's called Creating Active Awareness. This blog is primarily aimed at innovative security managers who want to do really effective security awareness. But this month, I have tips for everyone, regardless of your role, that give you some ideas on how to make good use of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So check out the ClickArmor channel on YouTube to see the many short episodes of this ongoing series. And finally, and most exciting, you should definitely check out our free Home Alone gamified learning module that teaches you and your team in a fun way how to work from home securely with your own organization's leaderboard. To get started, just go to clickarmor.ca/sharedsecurity.
Welcome to episode 142 of the Shared Security Show. And joining me is frequent guest Kevin Johnson. Welcome to the show again, Kevin.
I like frequent guest.
Frequent guests. We should just make you co-hosts at this point.
Nobody wants me to be a frequent guest.
Could we make it official, give you an official title? Would that help? Or
I was making a joke about people not wanting me at their house.
Oh, okay. So we don't want to make you an official co-host then.
Yeah,
Got it.
No, it's up to you. It's your show, damn it.
Nice. Well, we wanted to depart from the news this week, and I've been talking to a lot of my friends and family about a movie called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. It's gotten a lot of attention in the last couple weeks. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have told me, like, you got to watch this movie, The Social Dilemma. I mean, you talk about social networks all the time and want to know your take on that. And I watched the movie. I thought it was very interesting. Some of the concepts and the things they were talking about. And I've asked Kevin to also watch the movie and to provide, I made him do it, yes, and to provide his thoughts on the movie as well. And maybe we can have a good conversation about the movie, the pros and the cons, and we'll see where we end up. But for those of you that have not seen the movie, I will preface this by saying there probably are spoilers in this conversation. So if you want to stop the pod,
if they've ever listened to a podcast you've done, there's spoilers to the movie.
Fair
Even
enough.
before the movie came out.
Fair enough. So up to you, listener, if you would like to pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back, totally up to you. But you can also continue listening. But yeah, for those of you that don't know about the movie, it is a movie that's out on a documentary that's out on Netflix, and it talks about the social dilemma, meaning social media, right? And where we've come from an industry perspective. So the tech industry, I thought it was really cool. They had a lot of people they interviewed that were former either developers or engineers or not CEOs, like C-level executives. Yeah.
Executives. Now, a question about that, because I was paying attention to titles, but not paying attention to titles. Am I correct in my understanding that not a single one of the people interviewed is currently working for a social media site? That'd be accurate, right?
Well, not one of the top 3 social media sites.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Some of them have their own startups and other things that they're working on now, but many of them were former employees of Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and
including the guy that invented. That's how it was said in invented the infinite scroll. So he's a person I hate. But
well, what about the person in the interview too was the guy that invented the like button on Facebook?
oh yeah, that guy is an awful person too. I will say one thing though. I found it interesting when you said to me last week, "Hey Kevin, have you seen this?" And I'm like, "No, I've been fighting watching it." Because same thing. Like lots of people are saying to me, "Hey, did you watch it? What do you think? What's going on?" And I'm the worst. The minute I start hearing, "Oh, you gotta watch this," I don't watch it. I'm the opposite, right? But it's not a documentary. It's a docudrama, and I had to look.
You're right.
Up, right? Because that's what they say, like the docudrama, and I'm like, what the heck is a docudrama? And I thought it was interesting. I also think it was unnecessary. For me, it was unnecessary, but I'm also not a normal person. There's the documentary part where they're interviewing people and discussing things. And then woven throughout it, I don't know the way to put it, was a dramatized family.
Yes.
And I thought that was, I thought it was interesting. Personally, I felt it took away from the point. I'm bothered
Over dramatized
some of that as we talk, but
yeah,
my end result is the movie was decent. I disagree vehemently with what I consider the two main points the two conclusions they came up with. I disagree with them.
Okay.
So we'll go there.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about kind of the people that were in the docudrama, drama docu, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So Tristan Harris, he's a former design ethicist, and I honestly didn't even know there was a position called an ethicist.
Yeah.
He was at Google, and now he runs, I guess, I don't know if it's a startup or an organization. It's called the Center for Humane Technology. So that's
my understanding is the foundation. Like it's not a startup like trying to do something. It's sell something. It's a foundation that's trying to push for legislation and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he was kind of the center of the whole movie. His obviously the way that they design things at Google, and he was specifically talking about, I think, YouTube, where YouTube is the addictive part of it, right? Where you can go down what they call the rabbit hole of YouTube, right? You watch one video, it recommends something else, and then you inherently just want to click on that movie and then that video and so on, so on, so on. And before you know it, it's 3 a.m.
It's funny you say that because on my monitor over here, the other monitor, I actually have a video paused that I was watching.
Yes.
Right before. It's how to cook frozen dumplings in a variety of ways. Because I'm a fat guy that likes food. So the rabbit hole I go down is Korean street food and what have you.
Right. And I think you use that as an example of what all the social media companies do is to keep you engaged and to keep you clicking on things. They've designed the technology in a way which they would argue may not be ethical or may not be good for your mental health. I think didn't they use like the how they train rats and other like lab mice and things, right? Yeah. You have cheese at the end of the maze and you're going to pull levers, you're going to find a way to get to the cheese. And they have equated social media to finding a way to always get the cheese by clicking on things. Because they manipulate our mind. Right.
There is no end.
No.
And I think that for me, I think that is actually, I'll be honest. If you had asked me, I know I use social media a lot. I advertise my company through it. You and I've done lots of projects with it. I'm on social media a lot. But if you had ever said to me, how much do you use it? I don't think I would have had a good measure. I don't think I still have a good measure.
Yeah.
Right. But it definitely made me think about how often I'm on there. So that's good.
Do you think you use it too much?
Yes, I will absolutely say I use it too much. But I would have said I used it too much before I watched the movie. but I think that I would say now that I really use it too much. But I think, and we talked about it a little bit before we started. I think that it's very hard not to use when you talk about social media as a whole. I think it's almost impossible to use the modern popular web without being tied somehow into, even if you don't have an account, when you go to that website, and I'm not even going to get into Google searching and stuff like that, but when you go to the website that says log in, and you can also use this other, Google, Facebook, whatever. One of the things a lot of people don't recognize, and I did not catch them say anything about it last night, which was interesting to me. Facebook and Google and Twitter and all the whatever sites are saying you can log in with this, they know you're at that site. And even if you don't have an account, you have an identifier. And so even if you say, like, how many times have you seen people say, "Oh, I'm quitting Facebook," and which is really just a way to get people to beg you to stay, in my opinion. But they like, "Oh, I'm quitting," and it's like, okay, like, but you're not, because you use the internet. So I don't know. I think that the biggest problem, and I don't think this was covered well last night. So summary, I believe that the movie had good points. I thought they brought up some stuff that should be enlightening to a lot of people. I disagree 100% with the two conclusions I think they came up with. And those two conclusions are, one, the technology can't fix the problem, so we need the government to do it. And I will admit my bias. The minute you say, "Oh, let's make it illegal," I automatically disagree with you. But even ignoring that, I disagree with you. And then the second thing that I disagree with is, and disagree might not be the right word, is that they claim that there is no actual truth. There's no arbiter of what is real. And I think that's wrong. But I also think, and as I talked with Nathan this morning, because Nathan is really big in the privacy stuff. As a matter of fact, I recommend highly if you're interested in it. Did you see his B-Sides talk? B-Sides Oklahoma?
No, not yet.
It did not go deep into social media, but it was all about privacy. And I think that that's really what this boils down to. And it was a great talk. I recommend it. So I was talking to him about this. And the idea of truth has been a debate since Aristotle and Plato and
beginning of
Adam
time.
and Eve.
Sure.
Right? Like it's a long-term discussion. So, but yeah, that's what I disagree with. So go. I'm sorry.
No, that was good. Yeah, I think there's definitely some controversial pieces of this. There's also a lot of things that I think shouldn't be breaking news to anybody, right? I mean, we all know that social media can cause a lot of mental health issues, especially for teenagers, right? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's where the drama piece came into place, right? They're showing like the girl on Instagram, and she's being made fun of from her friends because they're the things she's dressed as, or whatever. Very common form of bullying these days that we've talked about a lot. And of course, disinformation being spread through social media is rampant. I mean, we know this. Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, left or right or somewhere in the middle, there is fake news in all of those camps, right?
It's so sad that we can't say that phrase anymore without making fun of it.
I know, but and I think we're seeing more instances of, there's all these alerts coming out from the FBI and others saying, 3 countries in particular are the source of all of this disinformation. And the point is, they're not picking sides either. They just want to cause chaos in the US election system to discredit it. That's their main goal.
And I don't think it's just the US election system, and they even talk about it. Right?
Of course not.
The increase in lots of countries of both right and left, whatever you want to call it. And I hate that terminology, but it's pretty much what people say. An uprise in the extreme sides getting power.
That's right.
And personally, I actually don't think most of it's political. Like, we can pick on Russia, we can pick on China. I've talked about a lot of this. I've talked to other people. There's what is the name of that YouTube channel? There's a YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm going to point you at another YouTube channel, but Smarter Every Day. And they've done a series of videos on manipulating Twitter, manipulating Facebook and stuff like this. And they've come out and said, and I think they're right, based on other things I'm seeing, is that the political aspect is a side effect. It's an economic thing they're trying to do, right? And I think that's, for me, that's a key point, because if we're trying to fight politics, but that's not what they're going after, we're going to lose, right? You got to, just like with hacking, we have to find out what their goal is to know what we need to defend against. And I don't think they care who's elected. I think they care about how much money they can make.
Absolutely. So. And speaking of money, that was the other piece of this movie, was the monetization of users of social media, how ads work, how they help drive revenue for not only the advertisers, but also for Facebook and the social media companies. And I guess I found interesting that a lot of people don't know how deep that goes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, oh yeah, these ads are being tailored to the things that I'm viewing on, you know, Facebook as an example, but you and I both know that it goes well beyond Facebook with the Facebook pixel and the like button and how these yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that I think not only does it go way beyond that, but I don't think people understand how specific that advertising can be. Like the switches they can turn. We've run Facebook ads at Secure Ideas, and LinkedIn ads, Twitter ads, and Google ads. I don't know why I had to name all four, but let's go with it. But I was amazed when we started doing that. Like it's almost to a level where it's like, I want to target somebody who was born sometime in the beginning of February and is currently wearing a red shirt and prefers blue, or, you know, like that. It's amazing how detailed, and I don't want to say scary, because like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so the one senator is like, well, I'm 62 and luckily I'm going to be dead before all this comes to fruition, but it scares me to death. And I'm like, it shouldn't scare you. Just be aware of it. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I do think that one of the biggest problems here is we have allowed organizations to grow in power while continuing to rank them based on the idea that they don't edit things. And I think that, you know, when all the Zuckerberg interviews with the Senate and Congress or whatever, and even the movie last night, by the way, I watched it last night, and not that that means anything to anybody else, but you and I right now, because it was last night. I think that the biggest thing that they ignored, and I think this is important to understand, is that the social media companies do not want to edit things. It's why Facebook has outsourced fact checking, right? Is because the minute they start editing things, the minute they start saying this isn't allowed, this is allowed, they change the entire way the law affects them.
Oh yeah.
Right? And they left that out, and that's why I think it's so critical, because the conclusion was, okay, the technology can't fix it, the government has to step in. Well, first off, what government? Because these networks and these companies are international, and we don't, you know, the UN doesn't have that kind of sway. And two, they're already being impacted by the laws, which is blocking some of the things they can do and enabling some of the things they are doing, right? I think we have to recognize that they want to be perceived as a platform, not as a producer. I think that's the right word.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's why we see a lot of this. Why, I don't know anybody with a brain that thinks the earth is flat. But the fact that millions of articles and videos and posts and views are all around the idea that the earth is flat, and Facebook doesn't want to stop that, one, because they get attention and engagement, and two, the minute they start saying, okay, we're not going to allow that, they become an editor. They become
And isn't there something to be said about, you know, freedom of speech, and especially here in this country, right? We may not, right?
No.
Let me hear me out.
I am.
Shouldn't we be, you know, take the flat earthers as an example, right?
Yes.
people may not agree with the flat earthers and
Absolutely.
their beliefs, but they should still be able to say those things.
Yep.
And on the other side of it, we should let them, but also have a dialogue with those groups to understand, well, why do you feel that way? Why
They
do you
feel that
think
way because they're
they're
morons. But
they may be, but
here, I want to be very clear, and I know you know this.
yeah,
I am absolutely a First Amendment supporter. I 100% get behind the First Amendment. Anytime somebody starts messing with the First Amendment, I'm like, done, you're out. I'm not voting. I will never vote for anybody that does anything against the First Amendment, which is why neither of the major parties is getting my vote this year. But the First Amendment is critical to the success of the United States. Facebook blocking videos has zip to do with the First Amendment, and that's
you are right.
I totally agree with the idea that if you want to be a jackhole and say that vaccines cause autism and masks are bad and the earth is flat, you're a jackhole, and I don't need to discuss anything with you because you're too dumb to understand words, right? I totally believe that you have the right to say those things. I do not believe that that right means that Facebook has to allow you to. And
Right. Because they're a private company.
Yeah, and this is
Yes.
I think that this idea that the First Amendment here in the United States, or free speech, because let's be clear, I'm a very firm believer that the First Amendment doesn't give us the right to free speech. All the First Amendment does is say the government can't mess with it. The right was given to us naturally. So I think that it confuses too many people. It's a rant of mine. I'm sorry. You pushed the button.
I did.
But yeah, I know. I totally think that they have the right to say it, but they can start doing Flatbook or something. I mean, and they have, right? You've seen. I don't know what to call it.
Flatbook.
Is flatbook.com even available? It won't be by the end of today. I mean, what is that? I've got a lot of friends who are ridiculous conservatives. And it's very clear I'm a conservative. I just find them to be ridiculous. And like they've moved off of Twitter and Facebook and all these places, and they've gone to these websites to allow them to speak unfettered. I will point out that I know this because they post on Facebook about the conversations they're having on these other sites. And those other sites, I've looked at them, they use the Facebook login to log in. So I don't really know what they're accomplishing, but they can build their own platform. And
sure.
And if you don't like the platform, then build another one.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. I think that social networks should do the right thing. And the right thing, in my opinion, is to not increase extremism of any type. I don't care if you're an extreme, I want to blow up things I don't agree with, to I think everybody who doesn't agree with me is an idiot. And I know I called flat earthers idiots. But come on. I think they should stop that. But I also don't know what reason they would, since the monetization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why would they? Because
I'd like them
more
to.
ad clicks, you know, the more money that they can make. And I wanted to just touch on the last topic here about this film, was around this whole concept of the AI. And the AI has gotten too powerful, where I know they said several times in this that, you know, Facebook's own engineers don't even know what the algorithm is doing anymore.
Yeah.
It's gotten so advanced that no one really knows anymore how ads are being served to you. I mean, of course, they know the basic concepts. They designed it. But what's your thought on that? Have we gotten to the point where, you know, the machines now have taken over, at least in social media?
I'll be honest, I was really bothered by them calling it AI over and over again, because it's not AI. It's
right. Sure.
Let's ignore that because I'm being pedantic. I don't think we're really there yet. While I believe 100% that if I was to say, hey, why did I get that ad? Right? Like, what about me got me that ad? That the engineer may not be able to tell me. But I will tell you that Facebook is able to tell me, because I look quite often. I get ads all the time that I'm like, what the heck? And it will say to you, that ad was targeting this type of person with this type of thing and this. So I don't believe that we're there yet. I think that that's one of the alarmist, well, we can't do this, and so we can't fix it. I think that's crap, right? I think that's as much crap as the one lady comparing social media being made illegal to us making it illegal to traffic in human organs. It's a scary phrase that gets people to not question the rest of what you're saying. And I'll be honest, the minute you start using scary phrases like that, like, oh man, we don't even know what the algorithm's doing, you immediately, to me, my immediate thought is, you don't understand what you're worried about enough to give me a real argument, so you made something scary up. But that's just me, and I'm a jerk, right? I think that most of what they said is true. I think that we're at a point where people don't know what they're doing, people using it. And I think that one of the problems we have, and I'll point out, preteens. What did they say? Preteen suicides, preteen girl suicides, or self-harm has gone up 200% or something.
It's on the rise, yeah.
Huge number. And as a father, and I don't think you have to be a father to be like, oh my God, to that, but as a father, that scares me to death. But I'll tell you my experience. I'm connected to a guy who was the preteen pastor at the local church. And I say was, he's moved to another city, so he's not the preteen pastor anymore. And he and I are connected, and so I see, his posts, the things he interacts with, and stuff like that. And years ago, when you and I first started the social zombie stuff, right, I started noticing that a lot of the preteen kids that he was interacting with, one, he was interacting with them on Facebook, which is against the rules, but okay, we'll ignore that, right? But he was interacting with them, and I was seeing the interactions, which meant I was seeing posts by these 10, 11, 12-year-old girls and boys and stuff like that, which meant their privacy settings were wrong. And so I thought, you know what? I got a kid my daughter was about that age at the time. I don't like this. I'm going to reach out and just say, not to the kid, because reaching out to the kid's creepy, but reach out to this pastor, or if I knew the parents, reach out to the parents and just say, hey, this is overshare. It's way too wide open. You probably want to talk to the kids. And in almost every case, I got one of two reactions. The first reaction was, no, they're just talking to their friends. It's perfectly okay. Because it was obvious the parent didn't understand the technology. And so the kid was going down a path the parent had no relation with, right? That's bad. Well, the other one, and I got this way less, thankfully, was, what are you, a pervert looking at my kid? No, but it was obvious from the interaction that none of these parents could relate to how their kids were using social media. And I would argue they probably still can't. I know that my daughters mention things, and I'm like, the heck is that? And I'd like to believe I'm more aware of technology and social media and stuff. And if I don't know what it is, right, I think that's a big part of the problem, is it's this big unknown. We weren't taught how to deal with it. We weren't taught how to interact with people that way. I mean, you and I've talked about the fact, like, oh, I've got a friend who's in Ohio that just died, right? But he's not really a friend. I know him online, and I can't even tell you what his real name is, but like, what is the terminology for that? If we can't even come up with terminology for that, how do we, I don't know. I think what we got to do is everybody needs to be aware. I'm a firm believer that sunshine is the best disinfectant. And I think that we all need to understand what we're doing. And I do believe that it's become so partisanized. I don't know if that's a real word, but the minute you say, oh, the Russians are affecting social media and manipulate, oh, so you hate Trump. No, I'm talking about the Russians. I may hate Trump. That's a different conversation, but oh, well, you're anti-liberal, or you hate Antifa, or you don't, right? Like, whatever. No, take a step back. Think about what's going on. Where are you getting this source? Understand. And I don't think it's completely social media's fault. Have you seen the meme that's going around that all of the news sites that have real news are behind paywalls, and all the sites that
Oh
just
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yep.
they aren't. It's
Right.
I don't have a New York Times subscription, and I'm not saying I should or they, but the number of times I see articles posted that I want to go read them, but they're behind a paywall, and I like, and you know what I do? I move on.
Yeah, like most people.
Right, and that's not good. So I don't know. That's my
Yeah.
ramble.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also thought there's some of the recommendations at the end. So during the credits, that's probably one of the best parts, in my opinion, just of like the advice that they give for, like turning notifications off on social
Absolutely.
media. That's a huge one that a lot of people don't think about, because you're constantly being bombarded by, another message from so and so, this posted this, that. Turning that off can help hugely, just in terms of your own sanity.
Well, and it disengages you at least a little bit. Because
Yes.
I'll be honest, my phone dings, I go look.
That's right.
No matter what
Yeah.
it is, right? Yeah, I've turned
Yeah.
off almost all notifications on my phone of social
I've done the
media
same.
sites.
Yeah.
Um, I the only one that I still have is if you private message me, I will be notified of
Yeah.
that, because I treat private message the same way as I would
Right.
treat a text message or whatever,
Yeah. And
But
I
bring my phone into the bedroom when I go to bed.
yeah, that's a really good idea. Leave your phone somewhere else, not in your bedroom, not right. And that's not the first thing you see when you wake up every morning. I went back to using a standard alarm clock instead of my phone because I was too tempted.
I
Right.
recommend highly lights.
Oh yeah.
I switched to, I have a smart bulb in my bedroom, and
Mm-hmm.
it slowly turns on as I get up in the morning, and it's way better than the loud jarring. But I agree, it's standard alarm clock, whatever.
Yeah.
I was just looking for a replacement clock, and I was seeing all the ones that are like, oh, it's got a wireless charger on top. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want the phone in my bedroom. The only exception I have to that is when I'm traveling. My phone is in, obviously it's a hotel room, so, but my phone becomes my alarm, and because I'm away,
Right.
I want. But I also turn on the do not disturb, so only certain people can get through and notify me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I made a personal decision, and this is way before this documentary came out, but I removed myself from Facebook. I logged out just because, I have friends from both sides of the political camp, if you will, and I was just sick of seeing the arguments, and I really thought it was like, this is not good for me, and I'm spending too much time listening to these arguments, and people, just a lot of hate and a lot of fake news, if you will, being spread. And I just said, I'm done with it. And for me, mentally, it's been amazing not being on Facebook, to be completely honest.
And by the way, I want to thank you in the recording for not being one of those dips that announce, I'm getting off of Facebook.
Oh, no.
Because that's just begging for people to say, no, don't leave. I have, starting last night, and not because the movie scared me, because the movie didn't scare me. I don't think I learned anything new in this movie from things you and I've talked about before. But I heard new perspectives, but nothing earth-shattering to me. I'm curious, with the interaction that is between Facebook, Twitter, Google, and stuff like that, that if I go a period of time, and I'm not going to set a period of time. This is like, I wonder how long I can go. If not directly logging into Facebook and interacting, will that adjust what ads and things like that I see? Because I every once in a while, Facebook will tell you what they think of you, like, oh, you're a Republican or a Democrat or a liberal or whatever, right? They tell you that kind of stuff if you go into that one setting. And I like the fact that they cannot consistently tell what politics I am. Sometimes I look.
You've broke the algorithm.
I've broken the algorithm. Sometimes I look and I'm a Democrat. Sometimes I look, I'm a Republican. Sometimes I look and I'm neither.
You're a libertarian. That makes sense.
I don't even know if I'm really a libertarian. I just have weird beliefs, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. So I'm not going to be interacting directly. I can't turn it off entirely, mainly because Well, a few reasons. One, I advertise my business through
Yeah.
social media. Like we advertise our blogs, our classes, and stuff like that. But I can't turn it off for that reason. The other reason I can't turn it off, and I'm not exactly sure how to handle this one yet. I have a bunch of people that is the only way I have to contact them. I don't have an email address. I don't have a phone number, and they're people I like. So you know what I mean? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. And you could stay on Messenger, you can still log out of Facebook.
Same though. I mean,
I know they still use that as the method to keep you engaged. Because as soon as I actually went through and deactivated my account, and we just talked about this. It's like, I've got the podcast page, and if you deactivate your account, unless you have another admin of that page, well, your page goes away. So you can't do both. Like, you can't have a business and run it through Facebook and decide, oh, I'm going to disable my personal account. So you have to make some sacrifices, or you have to, make some compromises, if you still want to run that business. So it's tricky. They're tricky.
Well, and people say, well, then don't run your marketing through Facebook. It's like, okay, but that's where our audience is.
That's where everybody is. So that's right. Well, this has been great, Kevin. I thank you for your thoughts and opinions, and this will remain, I'm sure, a very controversial topic.
I'm sure it will be. Thank you for making me watch the movie.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And see, now you can discuss it with your friends on social media.
No, not doing that yet. Not yet.
That's right. So, and if you haven't watched it, to the listeners, definitely it's a good movie to watch. Regardless of, I think some of the controversial aspects, still, I think it'd be good. Watch it with your kids. That's what we did. And talk about it after. That's the most important piece.
Yeah, my family and I are talking about it as well. Same thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next time, thank you, Kevin. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time. That's a wrap for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for show notes, all previous episodes, and to sign up for our email newsletter. First-time listener of the show, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you like this episode, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.